Hi everyone, welcome back to PI Today podcast. I am your host, Dene Jones. And today we have something really exciting for you guys. We're in collaboration with Attorney Dudes in Suits, their illegal fashion Instagram page, and they highlight attorneys who still suit it and boot it inside the courtroom and out. And today we're going to feature one of their fashionable attorneys, Brian Breiter, from the law offices of Brian Breiter. He's a trial attorney. But before we get into all of that, make sure you like and follow Attorney Dudes in Suits on Instagram. The link is going to be down below. And if you think you have what it takes and you would like your threads to be highlighted, slide into their DMs for consideration. Again, Attorney Dudes in Suits, the link is down below. So let's hop over to Brian Breiter and get into his fashion sense and his trial skills. Let's go. Brian, thank you so much for your time today and having us.
Sure, Dene, of course, my pleasure.
In your wonderful office. It's such an amazing space.
You know, it's home. I've been here 25 years.
Really?
Yeah. And when you walked in, there was a tiny little office. That was my office. And the rest was all these old timers. And then over the years, I ended up taking over the whole space and we expanded about 3-4 times the size of what it was before.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
You just kept walking around and around.
Yes.
Here's a new
have,
space.
Of course, the upstairs too.
Yeah, it's awesome. So thank you. As you know, the podcast is in collaboration today with the Attorney Dudes in Suits Instagram page, which you are a fan favorite.
Thank you.
I mean, look at you. Looking very, very dapper.
Just another Tuesday, Dene.
Tell us a little bit about your outfit.
Well, I actually got this in Spain. I was in Spain last year to play water polo and to go for a wedding, and I didn't want to travel with a suit. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? If I'm going to go to this wedding, I'm going to get a nice suit, and I'll pick something up in Spain. And I went to Corte Inglés, which is a famous, it's like a Nordstrom of Barcelona, and I got myself a nice suit. I think it's. This is a John Varvatos, actually, and it's nice, yeah.
Well, I love it. I love the color combo. I think that's why you're always standing out, from the mustache, the glasses, all the way down to your socks. I think that's why you're always getting highlighted.
Well, you know, it's in my blood. I think I told you my parents had a men's clothing store in Miami Beach for 55 years. And it was a famous place. It was called Hamilton's Men's Shop. And everybody used to buy their men's clothing from there. Musicians, politicians, gangsters, sports figures, everybody you can think of. Anybody who bought like a suit or a cabana set or a Guayavera, they bought it from my parents' store. So every summer I would work there. And my mom used to dress me up in suits when I was a little kid. And so I guess it stuck.
So your dad was an impeccable dresser.
He was.
He was into fashion.
You know, it didn't start off that way, but it's once he got into it, yes, he was always dressed really nice, in a suit, in a jacket, with a sweater, with a tie, and I just got used to it.
Well, I love it. Well, when I first met you, you were in Speedos.
Well,
in
sorry.
Cabo.
Yes.
And then it went into cabana wear.
Yes.
And then now, we've progressed and you're in, the fine duds that you're into today.
So it's funny, those cabanas sets that I had were original from the 50s from my parents' store.
Wow.
That he had this stock that had been there way back in the back of the store, and I grabbed it one day and grabbed a bunch of them, and I break them out every time,
I love it.
I'm in an exotic place.
Well, I think since I met you in Speedos, you've become a very interesting individual that I needed to know more about.
I hope it didn't cause you PTSD to see me in a Speedo.
It did.
It has that effect on some people.
But knowing, from, being such an amazing trial attorney in our community.
Thank you.
To knowing that you play water polo, and you still do, correct?
Yeah.
Competitively?
Yeah, we just played at the Senior Men's Nationals here in Southern California. for the 55 and 50 plus category, and had a great time. I have two other water polo players here, James McNamara, who won the 30s category, and Jack Gonter, who played throughout his high school and now is playing club ball with us.
So let me get this straight. So you're a water polo player. You're a trial attorney. You're part of a BOTA.
Yes,
which
I am.
is very impressive.
I'm very proud to be a member.
When did you become inducted into BOTA?
I got in 2017. When I applied, you needed a minimum of 20 trials. They've since lowered that to, I think, 7.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they're trying to get more young people involved in ABOTA, because I think the average age is like 65 or something like
Oh,
that.
wow.
And we have 4 ABOTA trial lawyers here at the office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
So water polo player, a BOTA member. You've had your firm for over 30 years,
30 years, yeah. This year will be our 30th year.
and you're in California and Florida offices.
Yes.
How do you divide your time?
Well, we have more cases here in the California office. We have more lawyers. We have another lawyer in the Florida office. His name is David Shonin. He and I went to law school together, met on first day of law school. And so we have more of a select inventory of cases there. Everything is big there, and they usually go to trial or settle right before the trial. And I'm there 4 or 5 times a year. I usually try 1 or 2 cases there a year. I've tried 3 one year, a couple years ago. So it just depends.
Depends on it. And then you are a professor at times.
I have been a professor at Pepperdine and Calgary Law School as well.
And you're a professional actor.
I am a member of the Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA. And but my favorite type of acting is improvisational theater, which you know about.
For lawyers and judges and trial work.
Yeah, the program is called Improv for Trial, and I've been doing that for about, I think, over 15 years now, teaching it to other lawyers, and travel around the country. Firms bring us in. I've taught with ABOTA. I've taught with Trial by Human and Trial Lawyers University and CALA, and all members of the community have brought us in to teach their lawyers.
What doesn't Brian do?
I don't do dishes a lot. My wife reminds me of that. I do.
I'm sure you
People leave them in the kitchen here. It drives me crazy. I end up doing the dishes too.
Right? The top guy also, sometimes has to clean the bathroom.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting as, obviously your style from, I think, your choices, your glasses, the way your mustache is cut, to your outfit choices. And I think a lot of times your fashion sense, to me it's also a personality choice, right?
Absolutely.
And how you are or who you are as an individual, it bleeds into the courtroom, in trial. It's all a sense of style. And since you were an actor and you teach improv, your style, does it translate to all of that, I guess, as who you are as a person?
So, I guess you have to dress for your audience. That's one thing. I feel comfortable in nice clothes. That's just how I am. And I want to look good. Some lawyers come in with beat up jackets and, scuffed shoes, and they want to do that to make it look like they're a working class lawyer. For me, I like looking like $1 million when I go in. I think jurors appreciate that. I'm going to dress different if I'm in a small town versus LA or Miami. It's just a different vibe. But, I do like to look good. I'm very conscious about the glasses that I wear, when I wear them, which style I wear. I don't wear jewelry when I'm trying a case, though. That I will not do. And I'll try and dress down my watch and stuff. But, you got to feel comfortable. This is, my uniform. And so I want to look good. I want to feel confident. And from the socks to the color of my tie to my mustache brush. I mean, actually got called out by a judge who called me into the chambers and she said, Mr. Breiter, I've been made aware that you're brushing your mustache
In
in front
trial?
in front of the jurors. And I said, I understand, Your Honor. And then she goes, so please don't do that.
It was just
So,
forced habit.
well, it was after lunch. I want to make sure I didn't have crumbs. So then during the trial, every time the jury would walk out, I go, Your Honor? She goes, yes. I go, permission to groom. And then she would allow me to, and she would laugh. And so,
Well, you know what? Really quick on the mustache.
Yeah.
That's. Would you classify that as like a handlebar mustache in the family?
this is a Van Dyke or a goatee. I think it's is what it
But
is.
this, right?
Yeah.
Which is iconic from the Buffalo Bill
Sure.
era.
Yeah.
Which, do you know? Which I look.
Well,
It
I know you're from the
symbolizes-
South,
I am. Thank you.
from
Thank you.
Oklahoma. Few people know that Oklahoma is part of the South.
Yeah.
And
They would argue it's from the Midwest, but they, would be wrong.
absolutely. Who would ever do that?
I don't know.
But yeah, it's funny. I grew this like during the pandemic, actually maybe a little bit before, and I kept telling my
Oh,
wife.
this hasn't always been your look?
Oh no.
Oh.
I had I had a tighter cropped goatee, more of an Iron Man look. And then, and before, when I was fresh-faced young man, it was no mustache. But I kept telling my wife, I'm going to keep growing my facial hair and see how, outrageous I can make it look, and see if the jury still will listen to me and take me seriously. And the jurors after the trials were like, we loved your mustache.
Well, it goes so well with, you being a part of theater and improv. I assume that was kind of almost like your identity.
It has become that. At one time I shaved it and my kids were crying. My wife asked me to leave the house until it grew back.
And I almost was going to ask you, you can change, depending on the venue of trial, obviously you're going to dress how you dress for Bakersfield is the way you dress for LA. However, you can change your outfit, but sometimes you can't really change your look. You're going to be unique.
I'll tell you a story, and I don't know if this was superstition or not, but I was in trial in Beverly Hills, and it was a very difficult trial. It was not an easy case. Super difficult. In fact, I kind of thought I was going to lose before the trial even started. I had my mustache, and I wanted to go in for a trim before the closing argument. So I went to this place where this person helps me trim my mustache, and I went to it. It was closed, and so I had to go to another place where this guy didn't know me. And I said, okay, I showed him a picture, and I just closed my eyes and shaved me up and everything. And then all of a sudden I hear snip. And I open my eyes. He cut off one of the sides. I freaked out, and he's like trying to put it back on. I'm like, what are you doing? Just cut the other side off, and then I had to do my closing without it, and I got defensed. It was
kryptonite.
awful. It was my kryptonite.
In college, someone did that to an eyebrow of mine, so I can totally understand.
Now I've gotten verdicts without this. I think it's just it's just it's a thing. It works.
Before we wrap up the fashion, because I really want to jump into your trial skills, because you're a fantastic trial attorney. What are some of your favorite brands? Because I know our listeners on the fashion side would like to know.
Yeah, I mean, I've had custom suits made for me, but I like an Italian suit like a Brioni off the rack will actually fit me very nice. When I'm just wearing my regular clothes, John Barbados I fit in it.
It's a good
Yeah,
brand.
it's hip, it's rock and roll,
And when you're casual, what's your go-to look?
Yeah, casual is my John Barbados,
Okay, that's the cash.
That's my casual look, or yoga pants, and a t-shirt.
There we go. Now we're getting down to
flip flops. But no, I dress to feel comfortable, and that's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So let's jump into trial.
Yeah.
Because you're a fantastic trial attorney. You're knocking them out of the ballpark all the time. I get the notifications like, hey, here's another $5 million, here's this, here's that. If you want to, let's talk about some of your recent wins.
Yeah.
But you're passionate about the improv, and I
Yeah.
really want to dive into that as well. But I think I love to learn about cases and what you're currently fighting for
Yeah.
and what some of the wins that you have done. For listeners, we have a lot of attorneys that listen in, and they're always looking to pick up like what can I do better from our seasoned trial attorneys.
Yeah.
So
You know, first of all, you have to know your case from the second it walks into the office and figure out what it's about, what's the theme of your case, what's it going to look like in 3 years when you get to trial. And we do that at a very early stage. In fact, I was showing you a video of a trial trailer, which is something that we do for all of our significant cases, where we make a film of what the trial is going to look like. And from the moment the clients walk in, we start telling them, start collecting evidence. And if it's a person who is injured, video them throughout their journey with their rehabilitation, going to the doctor, how it's impacted their lives. Absolutely, I do not want it to look scripted or planned in any way. Video them when they don't know they're being videoed. Everybody has cell phones. Everybody has their life, all their pictures, their videos, their birthdays. Everybody has somebody singing happy birthday to them. Think about how powerful those are in a wrongful death case. When you have everyone you love around you, and then that person's no longer there. Those are the moments that show what was taken away from everybody else that's involved in that person's life. And so it's all about stringing together that evidence and putting it together and packaging it in a way that's meaningful so that we can tell that story. And if the case doesn't settle with the trial trailer, which has never happened, they always settle,
because it's so impactful.
it is, then you have a blueprint for what your trial is going to look like. And it allows you to kind of stay fresh with it because you're constantly adding to it and collecting that information from the client.
Do you ever use that video should that case not settle?
I'll correct myself. One did not. And basically, the trial was exactly what was in the trial trailer. So we had the moments, the videos, the clips, the portion where we filmed the family at home, and we were able to play it during the trial. You can't put the music that we
Right.
use in there, but there are ways where I think you can get that in if music is part of the case. We had a woman who was killed, and she was a music teacher, and her daughter was also a musician. In fact, all the kids were musicians, and we went to their home and had them playing their music, and her mom singing. And so, had that case gone to trial, I would have put them up on the stand and had them playing their music and had their mom singing, all that kind of stuff.
Now, do you, over 30 years of practice, you focus on a lot like PI, wrongful death, dog bites, but you do a lot of wrongful deaths. Is that correct?
You know, I was telling somebody the other day, I feel like the Grim Reaper. I have done so many wrongful death cases, hundreds, if not more.
Wow.
At least represented close to 1,000 people affected by the wrongful death of a claimant in 30 years. We just get a lot of wrongful death cases. They're very different. You know, presenting a case to a jury in a wrongful death, it's heavy. I mean, the jury selection,
Yeah.
just the presentation and the pace of the evidence, it's different than doing a brain injury case or a dog bite case or just a regular old auto case with significant injuries. A wrongful death is very, very different.
The one that you had fairly recently, I believe it was in the Inland Empire. I think that was a wrongful death.
Yes, we did.
That was a tough one, correct?
Yes, that one resolved. It's settled. I think of the one you're thinking about, but
Oh, while you were in trial, it resolved?
it resolved just before the trial, but we had a wrongful death that Jeff Toomey. I actually did all the lead up work on the case, and then Jeff Toomey and Chance Pardon from my office tried it. It's where a young man got a McLaren that day and came to pick up our decedent, his best friend. He had been drunk. He drove him 1 block in this brand new car, hit something in the road, car went airborne, crashed into a tree, and killed him. And that got a $9 million verdict for an adult male whose parents lived in Australia and Singapore, and it was tragic. It was a good result, but there's no money in the world that replaces a life, and so every case is different. And it just depends how you tell the story and what you have to work with. And it's hard when you're when you're trying a case against an individual defendant versus a corporation. So we recently settled a case for close to $50 million for a wrongful death.
Wow.
It was against a corporate defendant. That matters, because jurors feel bad even for the defendants in these cases, especially when they're individuals.
Do you agree that even if it's corporate defendant, they have deeper pockets, which we love, a lot of times they make it tougher to prove on the liability side because they build it that way, correct?
I mean, it just depends on the facts of the case. Some are indisputable and they can't deny liability, and others, they have really strong liability arguments. I've tried, very tough wrongful death cases with impossible facts, and I've had other ones that are clear as day, and then it comes down to the relationship of the family members to build the value of the case.
So in those type of scenarios, how do you blend in the improv?
So, look, first of all, you need to know your case, okay? You need to know the facts 100%. Of your case. You need to know, what your experts are going to say. But no trial goes according to plan ever. Ever, ever, ever. There's always something that's going to be unexpected. And that's where the improvisational training that I teach to all my lawyers, that I teach to other lawyers in the community, is so valuable. Because if you're not in the moment, and also, you're going to tell this story differently to different audiences. So you don't know who your jury is, your audience, until they show up.
Yeah.
And then you might be like, oh, I was going to tell it this way, and you have a jury, maybe that wouldn't work for that jury. So you need to be flexible. You need to be able to, in the moment, shift gears. And sometimes witnesses freak out. Sometimes judges are mean. Sometimes motions in limine are granted that keep evidence that you were convinced was coming in is not coming in. Or you get evidence that comes in that you never expected. Or a witness doesn't show up or says something super powerful that is good for your case. And you just need to be able to be super listening, super attentive, in the moment, and be able to shift on a dime. And that's what that improv training does. I just finished an 8-week class with some fantastic trial lawyers, super experienced. One of them was a 20-year prosecutor doing murder and gang and rape cases. And after the class, she says, I feel like I want to try cases completely different than when I was doing them before, because now I have these new skills, this new language. And especially if you're trying the case with another improviser, you're speaking this secret language. All the lawyers here at my office, we do training. And so we are almost reading each other's mind when we're doing the trial, because we've worked so much together on these skills and reinforced them that I know they've got my back. And the whole goal of being an improviser is to make your partner in the scene look good, whether it's your witness, the judge sometimes, the jury. It's about connecting and supporting. You've seen improvisational shows, I'm sure. you're amazed because you're saying, wow, it's like they planned it. And it's because they are agreeing to tell the same story.
Right.
And to be open and accept the information that comes in. It's very powerful when you can do it well.
And be quick on your feet.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Well, Brian, thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a pleasure to always interact with you.
Yes. I'm not wearing a Speedo right now.
Thank God.
Yes, thank God.
It is a delight, though, I
Oh,
must say.
yes, it's so delightful.
Again, this is Brian Breiter, and he's from the law offices of Brian Breiter. And if you have a case that maybe you want to collaborate with him, have him take it to trial, we're going to link his law office and his contact information down below. Please reach out to him, and hey, he might even give you some fashion tips.
You know, I want to say one thing when
Yeah.
you say that. I love mentoring young attorneys or attorneys with a lot of experience. And when we do cases together, it's not like they just hand the case over.
I love that.
I encourage lawyers to say, hey, you want to learn? Do it with us. I like to bring them to the court. And sometimes some lawyers just say, hey, or you take it, you do it.
But you know what? I think that's a great point because I know, I work with attorneys all the time, and sometimes they're eager, they're young attorneys, they want trial experience, and they do want to bring on a trial attorney, but they want to learn from. And sometimes trial attorneys, they're like, no, you're going to give me the case, I'm going to take it. So I love that point.
Yeah. I was very fortunate as a young attorney and moving up to try cases with some of the top lawyers around. And I always said, hey, if we're going to do this case together, I want to do it with you. Because that's how you learn. And that's how you get that experience, I think I'm like at 80-something trials at this point. But I remember when I had only done 1 or 2 trials.
Yeah.
It was those other lawyers that mentored me and took me along, and I learned from them. I learned what to do right. I learned what not to do. I tried cases with some lawyers that I thought were terrible and had no idea what they were doing in the courtroom, and I was like, oh, I learned in that experience. So if you are interested in working together, I like bringing that attorney in and from the beginning so that they can be part of the process.
I think that's amazing. And then are you running any of the improv classes where if a young attorney or actually any attorney that's wanting to do trial, they can maybe join or sign up for a class to learn trial skills?
Yeah, just reach out to me. Go to improvfortrial.com, and we do 8-week courses on Zoom or live. We do boot camps, which are a day or 2 days. And, we're flexible. I do the improvised trials upstairs in the theater, which you saw. So people will bring their case here, and we'll basically do an improvised trial and put it up with jurors. It's different than a focus group. It's more intense, where we might run it and then run it again with different scenarios. See if this evidence is coming in, this evidence isn't. Sometimes I play defense, sometimes I play plaintiff. And we have witnesses come in, we have actors that play witnesses, and we do things that are unexpected for the lawyers to see how would they react in that situation. And it's very powerful, and it's a tremendous learning tool for young attorneys or less experienced attorneys to get that on your feet. Also, most important, the client goes up there. You went into the theater, right? It looks like a courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
They walk in there, they sit in that witness stand, they look at the jurors, and they're like not as afraid when the time for the trial comes in because they've done it.
That's important. That way they're more comfortable and confident when it's their turn to take stand. I think that's great.
And, there's been so many times that we had no idea about an aspect of this person's life until we put them in the stand and something came out and we're like, holy crap. We didn't even know that. And it becomes one of the most important, most powerful parts of the case.
That's so effective.
So you thought this interview was over, and then we had a second interview.
I love it, though.
That's improv.
And look, I just roll with it.
You said
into
yes.
it.
That's right. You said yes, and that's one of the most important rules. It's been such a pleasure, Dene.
Always. I love it.
And I can't wait to go to the South in Oklahoma.
You're going to get some buttered biscuits, fried chicken.
Yes.
Hit me. I mean, come on. I'm from the South. I know all
right.
this stuff.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for coming here, and I hope it was everything you dreamed of.
More so.
Yes.
I love it.